Welcome, everybody, to the latest instalment in our London interview series. And I'm very delighted and pleased to welcome Russ Hubbard, Chief Commercial Officer at Veson Nautical. Veson Nautical, as many of you will know or may know, is a global leader in maritime data and freight management software. And at Veson, Russ leads a commercial organization with a focus on empowering clients with the solutions needed to navigate compounding complexity across maritime shipping. I'm looking forward, Russ, to finding out a bit more about compounding complexity, which would be good. Russ brings over 20 years of leadership experience across fintech, logistics, and enterprise information management. So Russ, welcome to the show. Just off camera there, we were talking about, I've known John Veson for many, many years and certainly going back many years at the CMA show over there in Stamford, Connecticut. But welcome to London Interviews, Russ. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, so talk to me about compounding complexity. What do you mean by that? And what's it sort of looking like in today's shipping market? There's a lot happening in shipping at the moment. We'll touch on that as we go through. But talk to me about compounding complexity and what all that means.
Yeah, I think that's probably a perfect intro when you talk about there's a lot going on in shipping. And certainly I think if you look at over the past several years, right, this didn't just emerge in 2025, although I think 2025 has done a phenomenal job of exclamating the point on this one, in the sense that if you look at shipping and you think about decarbonization and the regulations around that, you think about dual fuels and all of the ripple effects and implications of that. If you think about tariffs and what that does to global trade flows, all of these things happen. They no longer happen in isolation, and they are compounding on top of themselves. And those that are operating the vessels and those that are chartering the vessels have to be very dynamically capable of adapting to all of these complexities in this new modern world in which we live. And by all accounts, it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. There doesn't, at least I haven't seen any indicator that geopolitical tensions are lessening and we're not going to be dealing with potential port closures and congestion and the implications of different capabilities on fuel supplies. So I do think we're living in a complex world that has increasing implications for those in the shipping industry.
When I have these conversations, and as you'll imagine, we with the outreach that LISW has, the scope of the subject matter that we talk about in our London interviews, we talk about geopolitics. We talk about how shipping is agile, how shipping moves and changes, and that's its strength, and nobody else needs to worry about it. It gets on with it. You're helping it get on with it.
That's exactly right. We're at the core of a lot of vessel movements around the globe. As part of the voyage management component, and not just that, but the vessel selection, the data sets we offer, we are very much in the middle of it. And we view it as, we try to help enhance decision making. And to do that, you have to do it really in the moment. There's a decision advantage that can be created when you have all of the contextual data, all of the information you need in real time, and you have a very narrow window to make that decision with very real profit and loss implications of those decisions. So our mission is to be the standard platform that propels maritime commerce. And to do that, you need more and more tools at your disposal than perhaps what you may have needed 20 years ago.
Can you give me some of the examples? I mean, I've been on your website, I've had a look, but, it's better coming from you, and the listeners can hear this as well. But give some examples of the tools. What is the market wanting? What do they want to know when they're running their ships?
Yeah, so we have a variety of tools. And I think for those that have followed the Veson story over the past few years, we've acquired a few companies. We've had very targeted development on our side as well. And so there's a core application around voyage management, but we also purchased Vessels Values, Q88, Ocean Bolt, all of which provided different data sets that really, they allow us to provide vessel specifics, port specifics, and port congestion, all of that information in the moment of an operational decision. Some examples would be where, if suddenly the Suez Canal closes and you need to know the impact to your P&L because you're publicly traded and you've got multiple vessels lined up there, we can tell that to you in a matter of minutes. You can start to see the impact of what that does. You can think about also if you have a very high number of claims and a high claims velocity, we have tools which allow you to automate and use AI to really take that to a next level and be able to project in a forward-looking way the impact of these flows on you. There are really countless examples I could continue to give, but at the end of the day, it's the intersection of contextualized data in a moment of decision with the processing capability to inform you.
So when you talking to the market and you're chatting to your clients, a lot happening in shipping, good and bad, a lot of opportunity. I'm a glass is always half full person. I always have been. So I look at something and say, right, what's the opportunity in this? Where can we move it forward? What do we need to do to actually maximize our potential there? There's a lot happening. Fuels, as you say, with the geopolitics, that side of it, changing trade lanes, changing routes. AI, massive explosion in AI and innovation, huge uptake on potential there and driving in value to the bottom line. Probably in a lot of areas that people are only now just discovering and what have you. What is the market telling you when you're talking to your clients? What do they want on a day-to-day basis? What are they concerned about? What do they think they need to maybe guard against and prepare for in 4, 6, 8, 12 months' time?
Yeah. We're seeing a market that has probably two camps, if you will. One, you find folks that see the opportunity in chaos, if you will. There are some folks that are very willing to take risks, and sometimes material risks, for outsized returns downstream. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where there's maybe extreme conservatism, where folks are trying to stick with what's tested and tried and true. I think the common theme that we see across all of those camps, however, though, is that the complexity is real. And most, certainly on the larger end of the shipping community, most of those organizations have developed pretty sophisticated technology stacks to try and deal with this complexity. Talking recently with a large commodity trader who has something like 17 tools, 17 different software applications just for maritime. And when you talk to them about that's complexity. They don't want to manage 17 integrations. They may feel like they need all these different sources of truth, etc. But they're really trying to get down to fewer. They want an ecosystem that collaborates together, that works together. They want a solution set and a platform that allows them to grow and expand and pull in what they need without having to operate in 17 different screens and 17 different interfaces. So it really kind of comes down to, I think most of the market is really looking to find a way to simplify the complexity in a way that allows them to operate optimally. And
that's all against a backdrop of a highly fragmented shipping industry, without a doubt, in the way vessels are. And you've got some sectors that are, accelerating ahead in digitalization and others that don't embrace it.
That's extremely accurate.
So again, opportunities, challenges there. I think on some of the questions that we prepared with you in advance, I think there's one line in here which I like, which is, it's not the storm, it's the climate. And I think that's an interesting element there. But when you look at an element of or a section of the shipping industry that are very much the laggards in all of this, there's a lot of excitement and opportunity about sort of what they can do and how they can benefit from it all, I guess.
There is, and I would articulate probably that there was an option to operate in maybe a more traditional manner versus a modernized manner several years ago. That option is quickly being eliminated. And some of that is just the reality of, governance and regulatory needs, that you can no longer stick with what worked 20 years ago. You are being forced to update to comply with Fuel EU or EU ETS, name the regulation that's coming. So I don't think sticking in the past is really an option for a lot of folks. The question for them is really, when they look to modernize, are they looking at it as a task they have to kind of survive, or are they looking at it as potentially a source of competitive advantage for them? How do they really get good at this and be able to use the technology to turbocharge how they operate?
What would you say, before we come on to some of the other aspects there, what would you say to companies like that? Because if you're sitting down with them and, first of all, with regulation compliance, you have to do a lot of stuff that you probably didn't do before. And you have to be accountable, and you have to have threads of data, throughput, that the charterers and your customers are demanding. But what would you say to these customers, when you're sitting down with them?
We have a lot of these conversations, as you might imagine. We have thousands of clients at this point, and they're across the spectrum. From the most sophisticated and modern to sort of the folks taking their first steps on this modernization journey. And for the ones taking their first steps, it's really a question of managing change, if you will, and helping people change their behaviors. And that really comes down to the human equation. And we can talk about AI and what AI is capable of doing, but at the end of the day, what AI is really great about is it allows us to be more human. It takes the mundane tasks off and really allows us to, the highly repetitive, high volume, pattern recognition types of things can be taken off by AI. And the true judgments can be made by the humans who have decades of experience in many cases. And you don't have to give up your experience that maybe you're very proud of as a smaller operator who's operated traditionally a certain way. You don't have to sacrifice that. You really are just trying to figure out how to optimize that experience relative to what the tools can do for you. So it's not an all or nothing approach. It definitely is one of those things where, when we think about the tools out there, and many of us don't even contemplate this, but Microsoft Excel is now 40 years old. It's not a new tool. And there are a lot of people that are very comfortable with that, but a lot has happened in those 40 years to really advance the opportunity out there.
So looking at this changing climate, this new climate that we're facing here, what is your Veson's approach on this and to this change now? And, you've got the tools there. As I said, some of these acquisitions you've had with Vessels Value and Q88, excellent companies, highly regarded in the marketplace, giving you a very strong position in those areas. What does it mean for you guys?
The fortunate part for us is I don't think some things don't change. And our mission has not really changed. We, for decades, wanted to be the standard platform that propels maritime commerce. And certainly we started out from the voyage management side of it and really an application there, but we've filled in around that and we've built a standard platform. When we think about the market and really what's moving forward, this ecosystem and the open ecosystem is something we've always believed. I think we knew very quickly and very early in our existence that we were never going to be a standard platform if we were a closed system. We always had to have a rich set of APIs to interact with the rest of the market. We knew that we were not going to touch every single piece of technology across maritime. We were going to need to be integrated and integrated well. And we have hundreds of integrations now under our belt. So this has been a long-standing tenet of ours. What we've noticed or what we felt with these acquisitions as we pulled it together was that they really gave us an opportunity to have outsized benefit for our clients in terms of what we could stitch together in the operational motion. Whether you're a charter or an operator, pre-fixture or post-fixture, we have the ability with these data sets that we've acquired, with some of the applications that we've acquired, to really string together that whole stream that allows for a very seamless flow from one part of the process to the next. And so for us, it really is about being that ecosystem, that standard bearer. And we really do legitimately think about how we can deliver value to the industry. Like, how can we remove inefficiencies? How can we help market participants interact with each other? How can we help them make better decisions? How can we reduce inefficiencies for everyone? Because it really is not a zero-sum game. We believe there's an opportunity across the board where we can deliver value in multiple ways.
Where's the driver for this coming from, would you say, Russ? Is it because there's lots of stakeholders involved? We know the food chain, it's quite fun when you start looking at the interaction, but where's the driver for all of this efficiency, data movement coming from? Is it coming from the charters? Is it coming from the regulators? Where's it coming from?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure if I can point to one thing. I think as the industry's grown up pretty quickly, right? If you look at just the last 10 years, it's really accelerated, in my opinion. I think it's coming from multiple sources. When the shipping industry, I think, looks out across a broader horizon at other industries, and we see what they've been doing, in many ways, it gave us a blueprint for how to leapfrog and how to move even quicker than maybe we would have done organically. And with that, you get some great input from Fortune 100 companies, for example, who are very interested in operating with greater and greater efficiency. I think our decarbonization and sustainability efforts just across the planet have a very impactful piece of our mindset as well. I'm not sure that it's one thing. I think it's really, evolution is a natural progression, I believe. And I think the shipping industry is leaning into it for the most part.
So how many countries are you working across? What is the demographic of your clients?
We have people operating our software in over 100 countries. So we are, in the truest sense of the word, global. We now have offices in 10 countries ourselves and continue to build out to meet our client and market needs. All of what we do, though, I think it's really important to note that it's client-driven. We don't open up offices just to open them up. It's usually because there's some value that clients are expecting us to deliver, and we want to make sure that they're successful.
So it's being there very much on the ground, so to speak. Where is there a lot of interest? Is that we looking at the Middle East, Far East? What are the thoughts?
Yeah, we opened up an office in Dubai last year. So that's one area that we continue to see investment and expansion, not surprisingly. We continue to see strong growth in Asia as well, which is not surprising either. But we have growth in every one of our markets. We haven't really seen a laggard, if you will. Just some are growing faster than others.
So looking at, you talked about a unified platform. It'd be quite a good idea to get your views on why this sort of thing is essential now as we move forward. But also then sort of tapping into the technology that you guys have within your systems and how that sort of adds into it all. You've got a very exciting time in shipping at the moment where the industry is really starting to understand digitalization, understand value of it. And you've come along, you've got the tools there. What are the benefits?
There are a few. I'll start out with just at a high level. One is you get native connectivity. When you have a platform, get native workflows, native data flows across your platform, which really starts to it reduces the potential for mistakes. It reduces the potential for latency. It really allows you to operate real time. One of the aspects that is probably not talked a lot about is also that it unifies security. In an era where data security is paramount, having a unified platform where you know where your data resides and you know who has access to it and you know that there are zero trust principles in place, it's pretty important. So that's one of them. The second part I would say is that it evolves cohesively. So if you imagine that you have 15 different applications or 15 different vendors, they each have their own product roadmap. They're probably building competing features and capabilities. Whereas a platform, you really identify that, okay, we're going to build efficiently in the most logical place, and then that workflow can transfer across the platform. Thirdly, I would say it simplifies the experience. When you are in an organization, you have multiple role players. You want to have the fact that they all can talk the same language in terms of screens and how they get to the right place to be able to do their work. That ability to execute in a unified way, to have purpose-built features, to really allow you to kind of have stronger adoption and use and maximize the return on your investment. That single platform really does help you make some pretty big strides there. And lastly, I would argue that the unification of data becomes very important. And so data for most organizations now in this era of continuous improvement, everybody looks at their data and is trying to mine their data to make sure that it comes back into the feedback loop. And so that you continue to evolve. And when you have all of your data in one place, that becomes immensely easier. Your analyst's capability of mining the data and finding the true insights really comes to the forefront.
It's funny when you look at the way that shipping evolves and has evolved over the years, and it always looks to other industries and to look at what they're doing. I mean, it has shipping and has this side of the industry, looking at other sectors like the aviation sector or anybody else as to what they might be doing and how any lessons learned from other similar types of sectors.
We look at it probably a little bit differently, not so much aviation. I don't think that's one we necessarily look at. But ultimately, shipping serves underlying industries. And so when you really dig into what's happening with commodity flows or steel or ore, and you kind of go through all those underlying industries and try to drive insights from what's happening there, it really quickly starts pulling you into some of the geopolitical events, trade policies of different nations. You really appreciate very quickly what a phenomenally wonderful global industry shipping is, but how interconnected it is to the overall global economy. Like we are a linchpin of that global economy. And so it forces, I think, most of the shipping industry to be a little bit more knowledgeable, a little bit wiser of global activities than maybe the average consumer gets to be.
No, I totally agree with you because it's funny, that the man in the street knows nothing about shipping. And he goes to his Walmart or he goes to his Asda or his Tesco's and demands, strawberries in February and his TV and whatever. Has no idea how he got there. And then when there's a shipping accident, shipping is to blame and it's so dirty and all the rest of it. They have no idea that
Right.
90% of everything that's traded, is through shipping, and shipping is an amazing industry that is supported by companies like yourself, to make it work. So now looking forward maritime industry, a lot happening. What are your sort of strategies now moving forward? What are you preparing your clients for?
Well, one of the things that is changing, I think, somewhat quickly, that's always a relative term, quickly, so I hesitate to use it. But if you think about years ago, most companies were very protective of their data and their information and their processes. I think that most felt like it was very much their secret sauce and what allowed them to have competitive advantage. What we're seeing happen more and more, and I think larger organizations in these underlying industries are starting to push the envelope on this, is they're trying to drive collaboration and transparency and visibility. And so it's forcing industry participants to collaborate in ways that may not have been completely natural just a few years ago. And so we're starting to see a lot of activity around that, where larger industry participants, lighthouse type of accounts are really moving ecosystems. And those are happening industry by industry, perhaps, but it's starting to happen. We see the ripple effects of that, whether it be everybody needs to be 5 or 10% more efficient, to maybe there needs to be digital exchange of information. So we're seeing a lot of that happening quickly. We're seeing that it's across a variety of different subsets, if you will, or different workflows. Like there's obviously the sustainability side of that. But beyond sustainability, there's just efficiency. And really more and more organizations are recognizing that on this digitalization journey, I think we're still relatively early in the game. Perhaps moved the boulder the first few inches, which was really difficult, but there are several feet for us to go ahead and move it further.
I want to thank you very much for your support of LISW. And we're only a couple of months away now from London International Shipping Week, where the global shipping industry will be coming into London to connect and to discuss a lot of these issues that are going on. As I said, there's a lot happening in shipping, by the way, across the board, a lot of blue sky thinking. You've come in as a sponsor. Thank you so much. It's very, very important to be working with top companies like yourselves, because it's about also sort of leveraging the knowledge and the expertise that you have in the marketplace. Add in the debate and the discussion that's going on throughout the week. What are you hoping to get from LISW? Because there's going to be a lot happening during the week, as you can see from the calendar already.
Yeah, so for us, it's a great opportunity to touch base with our client base. Everything that we do is client driven. And so these opportunities where you have industry events where folks get together and really start hashing out different perspectives on certain topics, for us, those insights are tremendously valuable. They drive the direction we invest our developers in. They drive some of the discussions that we might have around M&A activity, any number of things. But more importantly, it really helps us validate that are we adding value in the right way or not? So a lot of what we do in these events is to kind of make sure that it's a sanity check, it's a health check. Are we on the right track? What else do you need? How can we deliver more and more value? And how do we become a better partner? We work really hard on trying to be somebody that's easy to work with and somebody that is collaborative and that has a bigger purpose than just a transactional relationship. Those aren't just words; they're represented in our values. And so, London International Shipping Week is a great place for us to kind of come in and continually validate that we're hitting the mark.
Brilliant. Well, Russ, I just want to say again, thank you very much for your support, but also for your time today. It's been fascinating. It's actually really good to start putting the other pieces of the jigsaw together when I have these conversations, that this is actually how shipping does its job. And these are the sort of tools that and the expertise it has to rely on, which is brilliant. But thank you very, very much indeed for your time today. And just saying to the listeners, you'll be able to access this as well as a number of other London interviews on the LISW.com website. And as we go into LISW, the event calendar will be filling up and is filling up, and there's an awful lot happening. So to Russ and his colleagues, as well as to everybody else, go on there, have a look at whatever events you want to go on to, and then register, and so you're not disappointed, because it will be very busy during the week. But Russ, one last thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Absolute pleasure. Lovely to talk to you.
Cheers.